sure if this is getting both of us in here. Here we go. We're going to start working on a little project, right, Steve?
Yes, we are.
And the whole purpose of this is so we can run our Starlink on 12 volt without having to go from DC to AC to DC or running it through an inverter. Because the great thing is our Starlink is now able to do roam in motion as we go down the road. So while we travel through like Canada and up to Alaska where there are no cell phone signals, we will still have our Starlink going.
Yes.
So we did some research, right?
Yes, we did. And we found out that we can buy a 12 volt inverter, I guess, or charger.
No, a power block from Starlink, directly from them. It's made for it.
Yes.
There's some aftermarket ones that people have scabbed together that you can buy. And we thought about buying one of those, but we decided to go directly with the Starlink product. And because of the high amount of amps that this thing draws and what it puts out, we wanted to be sure to put in all good 12 AWG 12 gauge wiring. Mm-hmm. So when you order this from Starlink, it comes with the cord that plugs into the router, which also powers the dish. The other end of this 12 volt power block, or power source maybe, is an XT60 connector with an XT60 cord, which is great. Nice big heavy cord. But when they send it to you, that's all it is. You have nowhere to plug this thing in to get the power. They leave it up to you to devise the next step. Now, some people talked about just cut this off, spread out the wires, add some little, what do you call those links?
I forget the name.
The little circle fittings at the end. Ring connectors. Yeah. And they've just done that. Well, that's kind of dangerous because you should have a fuse on any type of a connection. So we decided we will get the proper fittings and wires and connectors and everything else, because not only do we want to connect this to our battery, we want to be able to plug it and unplug it, because we do bring our Starlink into the house to run our home internet system. So we ordered this little outlet that we can mount in our motorhome, has a little cap on it even, that we can mount in the motorhome up near the bunk where we're going to have the Starlink riding in our skylight. Incidentally, I'll film later, the Starlink will be very secure on stretcher tension bars in our skylight to hold it in place when we go down the road. So this little outlet is going to be mounted up in our top bunk near the Starlink where this power supply and the Starlink is going to be. There's a short distance of cord here, and we have a connector. Well, we decided, do we want to plug and unplug this thing every time we want it on and off? That's not good for cords to plug and unplug. So the next thing that we are going to put in line is a switch. And this has a little rubber casing to go over it, a black cover, so we don't have to look at a ugly silver toggle. So mounted up on the bunk in our motorhome, we've already previewed out where it's going to go. We'll show that later. We'll have an outlet and next to it a switch. All these wires will be hidden behind a panel. From this fitting now, we need to go down 5 feet into the lower compartment where our batteries are located for the coach of the motorhome. So we have 5 feet worth of cable with fitting on each end. And we do have an opening already in that space that has been filled with foam that we found out we can just drill right through and poke the wire through to access the bottom compartment where our 12 volt batteries are. Actually, there are 2 6 volt batteries hooked
in series.
Okay, so now we get down to where we want to fuse this before we hook it onto the batteries. So here we're running to this next connection. The problem is the only way we could order this is with a female or a male and a male, correct?
Correct.
So we did have to order this little male-to-male connector to go right in here in this line. We didn't have a choice. To get one of these in 12 gauge. So down here, there's a little fuse online. You can put in either a 20 amp or a 30 amp. We're going to go with the 20. And down on this end is a whole different kind of connector. This is where we're going to cut it off and make ring terminal connections. One that's going to go to the power supply by a big fuse block that we already have in our compartment where our batteries are, and the other one's going to go to a ground, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the next step is to chop this off, correctly attach the ring terminals, and shrink tube them into place. And that's where Steve comes in. I do all the filming and the talking. Steve does all the work, right?
Okay.
That's why we make such a good team here. Okay, Steve's going to take care of disposing the end of this wire here, both ends, snipping them off. And these are the ring terminals he's using, and they are 10 or 12 gauge terminals. Going to strip back the wires a little bit. Give him a little twist. And now, throughout all the many years of Steve's experience of doing tons of automotive type repairs and maintenance issues, he always puts dielectric grease on every fitting that he changes on our motorhomes or cars. It's very important for corrosion, moisture, dampness. So he always uses dielectric grease. Now, what are you doing?
Now I'm going to crimp it.
Okay, and this is a crimping tool?
This is a crimping
It's
tool.
better than your stripping tool, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to give it a tug, tug, tug.
You can.
There, we'll let him do the other one first. Then he'll test them both. So he has the dielectric grease on. He has them tucked way in nice and deep. Now he's going to do a good solid crimp so they won't come apart. Now one of these will be hooking to that fuse post by our batteries, by the big block fuse, and then the other one is going to go on a ground that we have in that same general area in the motorhome chamber.
Now I'm going to, it's shrink tube.
These little rings have shrink tubing attached right at the connection. And there's our cuckoo clock going in the background. Let them cool off a little bit. See how nice and shrink tight they are? Okay, and while he was doing that, I took the time to make all of our connections. Here's that little male-to-male connector. And here is our 5-foot length that needs to get from the top where the outlet's going down to the battery area. Here's going to be our on and off switch that will be covered later with a little rubber cover. Then here is the actual outlet that's going to get mounted in the corner surface of our top bunk. This is the actual cord that came from Starlink going to the power box. And this is 12 volt DC to 12 volt DC. The one that comes originally with Starlink is a 12 volt DC box that converts it over to 120 volt AC household current. So when we do want to plug in our Starlink to household current, we use the other block. When we want to be 12 volt to 12 volt, we use this block. And then this is the cord that the end of this plugs into the modem that came from Starlink. Now, some people might just say to us, why don't you just run an inverter? Well, we do have an inverter, but there's always a parasitic phantom draw running an inverter. And also, as we're driving down the road, the inverter is powering up the entire motorhome, and we just need one little outlet going. So that's why we're going to go with this setup. And I think it's going to make our travels much more pleasurable to have the 12-volt setup for it, even when we're boondocking, because now we're not running an inverter, which is also drawing loads. We're able to run it directly off our 12-volt system. And when our house batteries get a little low, we are able to plug in our motorhome to our Blue Eddy power station, which is pure sine inverter, to run this. If we were just running off a little plug-in inverter, we would have to have pure sine. And the one on our motorhome that comes factory original OEM is not pure sine.
Correct.
So this is our best situation other than upgrading to a big pure sine inverter and running it all the time, which we really don't want to do. So our next step will be to go out and kind of try this all out after Steve hooks it up to the batteries before we go fishing this all through the wall. It's always best to double check. And Nick, did he do a good job? Hey, supervisor. He's just worried about going up to eat supper. So I think we have to go now and feed the dog. We have been at 0 and sub-zero for the greater part of this week. But now, today, we are up to 35 degrees, which is absolutely amazing. So, because it's a beautiful sunshiny day out there, we are going to hop into the motorhome and start wiring up the DC to DC power source for our Starlink. Here's the DC to DC power. Here's the cord that plugs into the modem and the dish. Here is some of the connectors and cords that we bought so we can wire this thing up directly to the batteries with a fuse, an on and off switch, and an outlet. And there goes Steve. He has the motorhome heating up, and he's going to add a little electric heater out there too to warm it up. So with these pieces, Steve has already started hooking up some of the wiring. These are our house batteries. We have 6-volt Trojan batteries, 2 of them. And what he did is he hooked one end, hold it up please, one end of this cord to our fuse block, our big fuse, and the other end of this cord is hooked to a ground, a negative. The end of this cord has a, how many amp fuse?
20 amp.
A 20 amp fuse, and this is the XT connector, male to male, because we had to shift gears a little bit that I explained earlier from female to male of all the other connectors. So that's going to run right on up there, and we're going to run it through this wall chamber. Move this leash, hold this way, through this wall chamber that we've pulled away. Back inside there is a little foamed in area that gives us access to below without having to drill a hole through our floor. And this is all pulled away for right now, so we can fish the new line up through behind this panel. Once it gets up here on the bunk in the corner is where we're going to put that little yellow outlet, and right in here somewhere I think we're going to put the on and off switch. So we'll see where we get. Let's get started. Well, we've connected all the wires and tested with our electrical tester. Temporarily, we are just letting the wire come out from underneath the lid of the step cover. These wires, like I said, will be buried in this wall and the trim put back on. But right now we have from the fuse block and the negative ground, then we have a fuse, 20 amp, then we have the wire coming up here. This will be hidden in the wall. Here will be the on and off switch. Here will be the actual outlet that will be recessed and mounted in the corner of this bunk. So even if we have the mattress in here, which we rarely do, we can still run the wire down alongside the mattress. Now I've not yet plugged in This is the end from the DC to DC power source from Starlink. This is our modem, excuse me, from Starlink that is connected to the DC-DC right here. The other cord coming out, we'll change that later to a shorter cord. Right now it's temporarily the big one from Starlink because we do use the Starlink at home when we're at home and we take it on the road when we travel. That's why we are not mounted in permanently. Now this cord goes up to our skylight. And in the skylight, we have these refrigerator stretcher bars. And we put these little foam in that package. These little, not foam, felted strips, like so, on the bars. So there's 8 strips on there to keep it from rattling around. We don't know if we're going to also need 2 more bars in the opposite direction. Right now we have them forward and back. We don't know if we need them also side by side. The dish itself is very lightweight up there in the skylight. Plus we can pull out these 2 sliders. One is a screen slider. The other one's a corrugated shade slider for extra protection if we feel we need it. Now our whole purpose of doing this is to be able to run the Starlink from 12 volt as we drive down the road. The cigarette lighter on the dash is not enough voltage to operate a Starlink properly. So this will be running from our battery bank. Our batteries charge while we're running down the road, so we really shouldn't see any unnecessary drain. If we're boondocking, our batteries also charge from our solar, so I don't think we're going to have much of a problem. We also have a Blue Eddy power station that's wired in that can charge our batteries as well. So hopefully our Starlink will be completely 12 volt. So now we're going to try it out. We're ready to plug it in and do the switch last. Okay. Ready to flick the switch, Steve? Again, this is just temporary wiring. This will all be encased within. And there we have power. Look at that. So the modem is powering up. It will power up our dish. And in a few minutes, we'll see what kind of results we get. And here, using the app on our phone, we are booting, powering on, and searching for satellites. Well, isn't that marvelous? Okay, we can hear it searching for satellites. And now you can see the little felted pads that we put on these refrigerator tension bars. These are for RV refrigerators. But we thought if we put those little felt pads on, they won't rattle when we go down the road. So we'll have to try that out later because we're not driving anywhere today. Okay, now I'm going to run a speed test here. Oh my goodness, look at that, 190, 170, somewhere in that area, 180. It's pretty darn good for upload speed. 27 latency, that's really good. An advanced speed test. Here it's running device to router and router to internet. Start advanced test. Oh my goodness, now we're up at 250, 260. Pretty darn good. I don't think we're going to have a problem with this laying flat up there. Now we do have the roam plan. We started with the roam plan originally because we knew we would be taking it to various places traveling. We never did a residential plan. So the roam plan now allows us to do in-motion roaming as we drive down the road. This is going to be extremely wonderful when we're way out in the boonies, away from any cellular signal, or up into Canada or Alaska, where especially cell phones don't work and you no longer have access to GPS unless you pre-download maps. By having this while we run down the road, we can access the internet. We can also do Wi-Fi calling from our phones called VoIP. So here's our test now, our advanced test. That's quite good. I think I'm going to stop now and take a screenshot of it. We have a nice clear view of the sky on the obstructions, which is nice. It's still building a map, but it looks pretty good. There's only a few little teeny tiny red spots, but the rest is all clear. Well, of course, we're parked in an area next to our garage without any trees overhead. And right here we are. The TV's functioning. We're pulling in signal. We could do the Roku. And we have the internet. Pretty good. Okay, right now our batteries are at 13.12, 100%, 13.1. Okay, Steve, flick the switch off to turn Starlink off. Let's see what it's drawing. Uh, 13.14. So that's not too bad. I'm going to screenshot that for my blog post. Okay, we tested. Now we have to take this all apart to bring it back in our house so we can have Starlink in the house. And then I think tomorrow we'll come out and put all the wires within the wall. Steve will drill through that small area of foamed in insulation, and then we can put the trim piece back on the wall so it's back like this. That's what goes here. And encase it all back in so all the wires will be hidden. We are really looking forward to our next trip.
Hey dear,
Yeah?
I'm going to hold the loom.
Yeah?
The loom. If you can pull the wires up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm holding the loom.
How far?
Keep going.
How far?
Hold it. Hold it. Okay, just pull the ones for the satellite dish. Okay, hold it. Okay, now I'm going to try to pull the loom down this way.
Okay. Should I keep holding the wires?
No, actually let the wires go.
Oh, okay.
I may pull the wires down some.
Okay.
Okay, how much of the loom is sticking out?
About 2 inches.
Oh, wait, too much. Pull some back.
Okay, about 4 inches.
Okay, good. Then now pull some wires. Just the wires?
Pull just the wires, both or one?
Yeah, both. Okay, good. Hold it.
Cooperation, teamwork makes it work. Now that we have this loom into place, he's going to foam around it to make sure there's never any leaks. Okay, Steve got the on and off switch done and mounted in the side wall, and now from the top he's going to drill through the plastic for this yellow outlet that needs to go in. Done. And the dog does not like drilling. Are you protecting us from the big bad drill? Chicken Little? So, now we clean that up a little bit, and that yellow piece is going to pop right down in there. We're going to put the two fittings together right before this switch, and we will have a working electrical system. Okay, our 12 volt XT60 outlet is now completely installed. Here's the little cap that goes over it to protect it from anything getting in there. And this 12 volt outlet will now power our Starlink, 12 volt DC to DC. Down here we'll have our on and off switch. So we're not plugging and unplugging the unit because we boondock a lot. We only want to run it when we need it. And this line goes all the way down through the floor underneath to our stairs where our batteries are. and it's hooked up to a large 12-volt fuse and the ground. And at the same time, while we had this wall apart to get in here, Steve added a 120-volt AC outlet for extra access for things like the vacuum cleaner or my sewing machine. So now all we have to do is put that strip back in place. And we are done. We tested the wire connections. Everything is fine. And we're ready to put things back together. Now he's replacing the large piece of vinyl trim that encases the wall to the cab. Okay, now he's drilling in the last of the trim screws. And they're covered with little caps when they're done. The last finishing touch. Can we go in a certain direction?
Yeah.
A little tab, huh?
Little tab right there.
Bingo! Look at that.
You gotta find a little groove.
Well, this is a job well done. We double checked everything with the electric voltmeter, and everything's ready to go for the next time we bring out the Starlink. We're not going to bring it out now because it's hooked up in the house, but we're all ready to go for whenever our next adventure makes us hit the road. We don't know yet if we're going somewhere for the rest of the winter or if we're going to wait until May and head up to Alaska. Plans made in Jello, right, Steve?
That's correct.
And Nick says, wherever you go, I want to go too. This is my camper too, right?